Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be covering the blue deck of UlforceVeedramon, and basically for those who don't know, this is kind of a glass cannon combo style deck where the whole idea is to play UlforceVeedramon and then swing with him multiple times by using his ability to stand himself up when a blue tamer is rested, and there are a couple of blue tamers that rest themselves, so that way you could stand up UlforceVeedramon to get those multiple attacks off, and try to win with this big, powerful combo play. Going over the deck, starting with the Digitamas, we're running one copy of Upamon, because Upamon is just one of the better Digitamas that we have for blue currently in the game. He gives the inheritable ability when attacking once per turn. If your opponent has no Digimon with Digivolution sources, you get to draw one card, and drawing a card is pretty good because it helps you see your cards faster. Next, for the other Digitama, I'm running 4 copies of DemiVeemon. So DemiVeemon is the card that obviously is going to play into what UlforceVeedramon is doing and what the Veemon line is trying to do currently in the game. So he gives the inheritable ability of, during your turn, once per turn, if this Digimon becomes active, again, trying to make him active is the whole point. During your main phase, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP until the end of the turn, so it just makes it harder for the opponent to stop or want to stop UlforceVeedramon when he starts going ballistic. Next, on to the rookies of the deck. I'm running 4 copies of Elecmon because Elecmon is just your value vanilla card. 2 to play is really cheap if you need to play him. He evolves for 0, so he's just, again, value vanilla. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Gabumon. Gabumon is a pretty good rookie because you could either play him and draw a card or Digivolve and draw a card. So either way, no matter what you do with him, you're going to be drawing a card, and drawing is pretty good. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Gomamon. So Gomamon is definitely interesting. This slot could basically be almost anything you really feel like. I'm just choosing to go with Gomamon because he has this inheritable ability of when he gets destroyed, you get +1 memory, and having some memory manipulation is definitely a good thing because that way it could potentially extend your plays or help shut off some of the opponent's plays. And then last rookie of the deck is going to be, of course, Veemon. He plays with the Veemon Digivolution line. So he has the inheritable ability of, during your turn, once per turn, if this Digimon becomes active during your main, you get to draw a card, and as I said, drawing a card is pretty good. Next, on to the champions. I'm running 4 copies of Gorillamon. So Gorillamon is just another value card that you want to Digivolve with because he has a very cheap Digivolution cost of 1, so that way you could get into your Mega that much faster. I am running 2 copies of Veedramon. So Veedramon is pretty good because he has a cheaper evolution cost compared to some of the other cards in the champion slot, on top of which he has a great ability during your turn. If you have a blue tamer, this card gets jamming. So it allows you to kind of start the aggression a little bit earlier. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Veedramon 0. So Veedramon 0 is another card that allows you to start with your aggression early on. So he has a great when attacking skill, where if you have a blue tamer, you could discard 3 cards from the top of your deck, and then this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP until the end of the turn. That puts him at 7000, which is pretty big for a champion. On top of which, he has a great inheritable skill of when this Digimon is attacking, you could return 3 non-Digi-Egg cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck and draw a card. So the abilities kind of like play into each other. You basically self-mill 3 to give him the buff, Digivolve, attack with him, return those 3 to the bottom, draw a card. It's just very, very good. On top of which, he also has a slightly cheaper evolution cost of 2, making him efficient to play. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Grizzlymon because we just need a blocker in the deck. That's really it. We just need a blocker, and Grizzlymon is one of the only blocker options we got. Next, on to the ultimates. I'm running 4 copies of Zudomon because Zudomon is just a really good ultimate because of his flexibility on how you could play him. So if you lack a champion, you could just play Zudomon as an ultimate, and then he has a great when played ability of drawing 2 cards. On top of which, he also has a pretty good inheritable ability of when this Digimon is attacking. If your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, you get +1 memory. And this isn't locked once per turn, so you could combine this with UlforceVeedramon whenever he attacks to just get a whole bunch more extra memory. And then the last ultimate of the deck is 4 copies of Arrow Veedramon because, he's just the next stage in the Veemon line. So he has a pretty good when Digivolved ability where if you have a blue Tamer, one of your blue Digimon becomes active. So it could be him, it could be something that you already attacked with. Point is, it becomes active, and that's pretty good. That means you could possibly get another attack, or hold it off so that way the opponent can't possibly attack into it. And then he also has a great inheritable ability where during your turn, if a Digimon becomes active during your main phase, this Digimon gets jamming until the end of the turn, so that way you don't need to worry about your Digimon being destroyed by the opponent's Digimon in the security. Overall, just a very, very good card. And then the only Mega we're going to be running is UlforceVeedramon. So UlforceVeedramon is the star of the deck, where he has 2 amazing abilities. So the first one is if your blue Tamer is rested, this Digimon becomes active. This isn't once per turn, so again, the whole idea is to rest your Tamers using their abilities. This card becomes active. And then he also has a once per turn effect where if this Digimon becomes active during your main phase, you get 1 memory. Getting 1 memory is pretty good because it allows you to possibly extend your plays, on top of which it also could help mess with the opponent somehow by allowing you to put them off of their memory potentially. So overall, he is just a very, very powerful Mega and the only one that really needs to be ran. As far as options go, I'm running 4 copies of Vulcan's Hammer, just again, more memory manipulation, just because we really need to be able to play UlforceVeedramon, and Vulcan's Hammer allows us to get enough memory to extend our turn long enough to potentially get into UlforceVeedramon, on top of which it has a great security effect where it could possibly mess up the opponent's plays by giving us 2 memory during their turn, so it's effectively taking away what they could possibly do. And then the last option of the deck I'm choosing to run is Ice Wolfclaw. So Ice Wolfclaw is our big removal spell to try to deal with the opponent's Digimon when we don't want to see it. So its main ability is return 1 of the opponent's Digimon back to their hand, and then discard all of their Digivolution sources. So Blue's form of removal is bouncing, so this is our big removal card. And then it has a great security effect of basically using its main effect. So whether it's in the hand or in the security, if this card is seen, then you could possibly bounce 1 of the opponent's Digimon back to their hand. And if it's on a big Mega that's fully stacked, then that could be really, really brutal for the opponent because now they have to reset up that Mega, and that can take time and memory. And if we could attack multiple times, they might not have that time in order to spend replaying their stuff. As far as Tamers go, I'm running 2 copies of Matt. So Matt is basically our memory fixer. So at the start of your turn, if your memory is 2 or less, it becomes 3. Just very, very easy and efficient card to fix our memory, on top of which he has another ability that allows him to rest himself. So during your turn, if you play a blue Digimon by resting this card, you could discard a Digivolution source from the bottom of one of your opponent's Digimon. So this is more conditional, but it can still come in pretty handy because he's another Tamer that can rest himself, giving UlforceVeedramon another attack potentially, on top of which he also is a free source of attacking the opponent's Digivolution sources. It's from the bottom up, that's one thing to note, but if they are banking on whatever is underneath, then we could try to slowly whittle that away using Matt's ability. And we have a couple of efficient rookie cards that we could play to get this ability off. Next, I'm running 3 copies of Rena. So Rena is another really, really powerful Tamer card. So Her main effect is during your turn, if one of your blue Digimon is attacking, you could rest this card and give that Digimon plus 1000 DP until the end of the turn. So again, she combos with UlforceVeedramon, where you attack with Ultra Force. During the attack, you'll rest Rina, and then you'll be able to restand UlforceVeedramon because a Tamer was rested. And then she also has a pretty good when played effect, where you get to check the top 3 cards of your deck and add one Digimon that contains V in its name from among them and put it into your hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So she is essentially checking for a card with V, so this opens up the door for a lot of potential targets that this card can hit, considering we have basically a V on every single level. So she is just a very, very efficient card at being able to try to dig for cards that you need. And then the last Tamer of the deck is going to be Taichi V Tamer. So this is just another card that obviously will play with UlforceVeedramon, where its main ability is if you have a Digimon that contains Veedramon in it, then you could rest this card and choose one of the following 2. You could either draw a card, or one of your Digimon gets plus 1000 DP till the end of the turn. So if you need that buff, he could give that buff. If you need that draw, you could get that draw, and he rests himself, so that way Ultra Force can stand himself. He is just basically the complete package when it comes to a Tamer, and he's just very, very efficient for what the deck is trying to do, and the fact that he costs 2 makes him very, very cheap and easy to play. So that's kind of it for the main deck. Now, I do have a couple of different options on some slightly different ways that the deck could be built and could be played. You could think about running a little bit of the Gabumon line, where you could start passively attacking their Digivolution sources, and a lot of these on attack skills aren't necessarily locked once per turn, so for every attack UlforceVeedramon gets, you could trigger these abilities over and over again, which is pretty powerful and can be pretty devastating. You could also run Gorillamon, because Gorillamon is just another really good card at making one of your Digimon become active. He does have a couple of different synergies, so that way you could figure out ways to restand him. But Gorillamon, and as such the other Gorillamon that also gives an inheritable on attacking skill, are both very, very good cards to run. Now, you could run the other Veedramon, so this is a little bit more expensive to evolve into, but his abilities are both really, really good, where he has a when attacking skill once per turn. If you have a blue Tamer, you can make this Digimon active, so he's kind of doing a similar thing to UlforceVeedramon already, but just on a smaller body and once per turn. And on top of that, he gives a great inheritable ability where during both players' turns, if you have a blue Tamer, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP, making it that much harder for the opponent to potentially kill off UlforceVeedramon. Next, you could run either of the Metal Gorillamons as alternate Megas. So Metal Gorillamon is pretty good because he has a when attacking skill. You could play a level 4 or less Digimon from its Digivolution source into a separate area without paying its cost. So that way you could kind of just start a new stack, so you could start Digivolving into UlforceVeedramon with. Or if you just need to get another level 4 out to continue a more aggressive push, he's really good at doing that. As I mentioned before, Gorillamon could have possible synergies with this card, because this Gorillamon right here has the when played ability, which would trigger off of his ability when you separate them, so that way you can make another Digimon active. It's just a small combo that you could possibly think about doing. And then as far as the other Metal Gorillamon, he is just another way to have multiple attacks on a Mega, because he has a when attacking skill. Once per turn, this Digimon becomes active. You have the multiple attacking synergies there as well. And then because you're blue, you could play Omnimon. Omnimon is just a very, very good card. When Digivolved, basically destroy an opponent's Digimon, and then all Digimon with the same name are also destroyed. And then when attacking, by returning a level 6 card from its Digivolution source to its hand, this Digimon becomes active. Again, more of those multi-attacking synergies just to try to push the aggression. In terms of other options that you could run, River of Power is pretty good. It definitely helps against the Rookie Rush matchup because you bounce 3 of the opponent's level 3 Digimon, so now they're going to have to replay them again. And seeing how powerful of a anti-tempo play that could be, they might not have enough time to want to try to do that. You could run the Ray of Victory. It's another powerful removal option that Blue has access to. So its main ability is that you return one of your opponent's level 5 or less Digimon to the hand and then discard all Digivolution sources. Then if you have a Blue Tamer, one of your Digimon becomes active. So again, there's that recurring theme of making your Digimon active for multiple attacks. And then its security effect is its main effect, so it's just overall a pretty good card in the security or in your hand. And then you could run Wolfclaw or Kaiser Nails. So this is just another way to separate your Digivolution sources. So it's another way to utilize the Gorillamons when played. So that way you can make another Digimon active. It's just another piece to that potential combo, on top of which its security effect is also its main effect. Unfortunately, if it's during your turn, that Digimon will have summoning sickness, so it can't attack right away. But depending on what the card is, you might not need it to. And then if you're going with a more attacking the opponent's Digivolution sources, you have the possibility of playing Joe. So during your turn, if you discard a Digivolution source of your opponent's Digimon, you could rest this card and gain 1 memory, and then obviously gaining 1 memory could extend your plays, and then resting him will obviously stand up UlforceVeedramon for another attack. So there's just a whole bunch of different ways that you could possibly build and play the deck based on the type of strategies and synergies that you want to utilize. For the most part, that's it for the deck. It is a very high-risk, high-reward deck because it is taking more of that glass cannon style where it's putting all of its effort into trying to aggro the opponent down using UlforceVeedramon, and it's not really choosing to utilize that many defensive options. Not that it doesn't have any, because Blue has plenty of decent defensive options, but the fact that it just wants to go ham on the opponent with the multiple attacks, and depending on how you want to play with those multiple attacks, you could definitely utilize a whole bunch of different possible strategies and synergies. That's kind of it for my version of UlforceVeedramon as of the 2nd Japanese booster. I'll have the deck list in the description down below, and feel free to leave a comment. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video.